Hello, viewers. Welcome to the Mockingbird Show. And today we have with us Dr. Kathryn Murray from Australia, and she is the CEO and founder of Future Strong Education and the creator of the Brain Set Formula. I'm glad to have her here. This is our second meeting, and today we are in Bali for a ECTF educational tour conference awards. So this is going to be a lot of learning and fun experience. And I take this opportunity to record this wonderful podcast because I'd like to hear a lot about the work Dr. Kathy is doing. And it is in a way in sync with the Peaceful Humans Peace Pedagogy. So let's get started. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, do so and be a part of the Mockingbird Show. I come up with my weekly podcast on various interesting topics, and today is going to be no different. And let us dive deep into what Dr. Kathy is about to tell us about the Brain Set Formula. So my first question to you, Dr. Kathy, is why is a peaceful environment crucial for optimal brain development in young children?
Well, firstly, Dr. Vasavvi, thank you for having me on the show. And secondly, it's really important for children to have a brain that's calm so that we can think clearly. So my mantra in the Brain Set Environments formula is a calm brain is a thinking brain. And that's so important, and it aligns beautifully with your peace pedagogy around keeping children calm, keeping the cortisol level low in the brain so that we are able to function in the best way possible.
Right. So that actually leads to optimal development of the brain in a way, because peaceful mind is a thinking mind. That's what you always keep saying. And when it's a thinking mind, definitely there are a lot of other additions to, better performance, better thinking abilities, cognition, and critical thinking and problem solving.
All of those things, and it's really important that we maintain a low cortisol level when we can, which means we try and avoid trauma triggers and stress. And the way we set up our environment adds to that, because the environment speaks and it dictates what we think, feel, and do. So we can think more clearly, we can make better decisions, we can communicate better, we can feel more authentically, we can be at peace, and we avoid all of that brain confusion that we struggle with sometimes.
Lovely. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And before we move into what peace actually means and what is a state of mind, of a child who is peaceful, let us first look into the chaos. Can you explain how stress or chaos in a child's surrounding affect brain function and learning?
Yes, the chaos can come in many forms. It can be bright colours in the classroom that are just overwhelming, and we can overcome that. We can manage those bright colours, but it comes at a price. Because if a young child's brain is trying to manage the bright colours in the room, it sort of makes it a little harder to function and think about other things, because the brain is working busily trying to minimise those colour sensations. Or if things are very cluttered, so if the environment has got a lot of things in it, things on the walls, things hanging from the ceilings, and then all the colour, it adds to this brain confusion, and it almost clutters up the brain in some ways, so that it's very difficult for children to really just think clearly. There's another thing called clatter, and clatter can mean too much clutter, or it can also mean too much noise. And again, we can deal with that, but it means we're working hard to do that rather than focusing on the clear thinking and the imagination and the creativity and all those wonderful things that we want children to be experiencing. So by minimising those distractions and clearing the brain confusion, we add to the clarity of the brain, and we come back to a calm brain is a thinking brain.
Lovely. Yesterday we had this wonderful experience of visiting the Bali Montessori school, and we could really sense that environment, which is very, proactive for the children's learning opportunities, right? It presents it directly. There are a lot of neutral colors, like we have noticed, a lot of areas where the children can work together, a lot of space for them to explore outdoors, and it's been a lovely, lovely experience. Don't you think so?
Yes, and you can feel the energy in a place like
Absolutely
that where
right.
it is just calm and peaceful, and that's what we want for our children. So many of our children have to struggle with trying to make do with the environment and just manage. Particularly children who have experienced trauma find that particularly hard to cope with all of those the brain confusion things that I just spoke about, as well as having these trauma triggers. It's very difficult. And then we wonder why children act out and their behaviour isn't good and they don't concentrate and they're not engaged. It's because of all of these environmental aspects that we have to really take into consideration when we are planning our learning environment. It's really important.
Wow, that's very insightful, because there's a lot to do in this whole aspect, from setting up a beautiful space for the children to learn optimally and to create an environment which is very, very useful for them, and it's actually positive for them.
Right.
Right.
It is very positive for them, and it really helps the teacher as well, because the teacher has a brain too, and so the teacher's brain is calmer. So there's well-being throughout the room. There's less stress for everybody because a calm brain is a thinking brain. So if the children's brain's calm, so is the teacher's brain. And some teachers, when I train them in the brain set formula, some teachers say they can't believe how much time they now have to speak to each other, because the room is so much calmer and so much more settled, because everybody is engaged with what they're doing, because they're not trying to manage everything, all of the distractions. They can just peacefully get on with their work and engage with each other and interact with each other, and that's what humans are supposed to do. We're social beings. So if we can set up an environment in that way, it makes learning a lot easier.
Amazing, Doc. You're doing lovely work all across the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad I got this chance to record this podcast when we are in Bali. And this is the right place, because we work here, everybody's working a lot towards sustainability, and we are working and visiting the schools and trying to understand what sustainability is and take it back to our own countries and try to implement these with children in their early childhood years and give them the right head start.
So, Dr. Vasavvi, I'm really interested in your peace pedagogy that you've developed as well. And I think it works quite well with what I'm doing with the Brain Set Environments formula, but I'm curious. So, what does peace education really mean in the context of young children and early childhood?
See, Dr. Kathy, we as human beings, we do not talk much about peace. Do we ever have a conversation around peace? We have conversation about any other thing, what gives us happiness, what we want.
Right.
But generally, when we talk about peace, it's about the inner peace, the peace in social life, and the peace with our environment, living in peace with the environment. So, peace, basically, it's a mindset. It's a way of life. When we are Indians, so we talk about yoga. Now, when you're practicing yoga, there's a lot of slow steps that enable you to develop patience, to develop the mindfulness that is required in order to be in the present. And in this way, peace is developed. And if we work and sow the seed of a peaceful mindset right from the start, that's going to be really, really useful and effective for the children in their later lives and the futures, because they'll know how to manage the feelings, they'll know how to regulate their feelings, and they would be in peace with themselves and with the surroundings and with the environment. And don't you think, would you ever think of a situation which is chaotic and that's giving you some kind of happiness?
No.
We always like
That's
a
right.
situation which is like easy, happy, peaceful. Everybody's on the same page, and that's why we go and choose friends with who gives us that
That's right. Calm.
peace, calm and the peace.
Mm.
So I would suggest that children from early on, when we talk about early years peace pedagogy, or we talk about Dr. Kathryn's brain set, sometimes you feel that people who we are training, these are two big things. Why do all of it now? Why not get into academic? Why not get into the curriculum? But these are the vital things that children need to develop in their personality so that tomorrow they can navigate through any kind of disturbance that is around them and work optimally in spite of the chaos around them.
Yes, I think you're right. And I think if we set up those foundations for children, those academic skills will come later because they've already developed their inner peace. And on a bigger scale, Dr. Vasavvi, when you were speaking, I was just thinking, you know, if we can help young children develop this sense of peace and this sense of calm and find ways to communicate with each other, it's going to help them in the future. It's going to help humankind in the future because they will have that peaceful mindset. Perhaps we won't have so many wars.
Absolutely, and then there'll be a lot of critical thinking, problem solving, bringing the problem to the table, and getting it sorted. There's a lot about conflict resolution, even in the peaceful human peace pedagogy.
Yes, it's very important work that you're doing.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Vasavvi, I have another question for you around your peace pedagogy and the work that you've been doing with young children in India. And my question is a curiosity, really. And I'm wondering how early can children start to understand these concepts like empathy and kindness and conflict resolution? What are your thoughts?
See, Dr. Kathy, every child, I would say, is actually peaceful. It's the environment that starts making them feel more complicated, maybe, become egoistic and competitive. So all those are the opposite of peace, right?
Yes.
So inculcating these peaceful, core values, the peace core values like kindness, empathy, can start from about 2 years. They start generally understanding the idea of empathy when they start to learn about putting themselves in other people's shoes. Now, somebody has grabbed a child's toy, and definitely he or she would be angry, right? That it goes without saying. But if the child is scaffolded by the educator to understand the feeling, to label the feeling, and then to understand the other child's feeling as well, the one who has pulled the toy, and come into some kind of an understanding or a resolution of the conflict about how you can share the toy and how it is important to learn sharing and caring, and how hurtful it would be for the child to actually experience that when they are playing with one piece of toy and somebody's drawn it. So all of this can be dealt, and this can be also looked with a lot of empathy. Now, in our work environment, now we are grown-ups, but yet we need to be empathetic at all times because I run a company, I run my schools. So there are a lot of problems that come up, and I need to see from my employee's point of view why she was not able to be there. So these kind of small things that we learned in our early childhood, to understand people's feeling, to respect, to be kind towards animals, to be kind to other fellow human beings, they were incorporated by our parents because we heard those dialogues at home. Why not help somebody? She needs help. Why not help her? She's done this. Why not try to understand from her point of view? So these are things that happen at home, and also in the educational setup, in the school setup, we can have distinctive activities with specific outcomes which are driving the children to think towards peace, kindness, and conflict resolution. So these are available in some of my podcasts that I've done, how to create a peaceful mind. And in my few last episodes, I've talked about the peaceful human peace pedagogy as well. And there I've given all these tricks and techniques and strategies that the viewers can have a look at. I'll be sharing the link.
I think it's really important that the adult role models all of these characteristics that we're trying to embed in young children so that they can have a peaceful life. And, we have to think too about the brain development and not everything that's going on in the brain and how busy children's brains are in those first 5 years, and how empathy isn't something that just pops up. It's something that develops over time as the brain develops. And if we have a good role model, as you just said, that makes all the difference to children.
It does, it
understanding the
does.
concepts.
Even in the classroom, the teacher, if she is not in a peaceful mindset, if she's chaotic, if she's got thoughts which are confusing,
Totally.
she would emanate that feeling, you know.
Yes.
And it's a vibe that we catch. You catch my vibe, I catch your energy, right? So even if we are verbally saying that be peaceful, be this, be that, and at the same time, I'm showing feelings of anxiousness, worry, fear, that is actually what the child is going to absorb, like an
Absolutely.
absorbent. They're like the sponges, so they're going to absorb that feeling, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's really important that we regulate ourselves before we can expect the children to regulate themselves, right?
Right. So we've been discussing about peace, a peaceful mindset. A lot depends on the environment. A lot depends upon how we have uh, kind of arranged our stuff. What is the color of the walls, and different things. And because you are a planner of these spaces, my question to you would be, what role does sensory input like lighting, sound, and colors play in shaping a child's cognitive development?
Well, that's actually a great question. And, we said before that the environment speaks and it dictates how we think, feel, and act. So look at our environment here, Dr. Vasavvi. We're in Bali and it's this beautiful tropical space, so we feel quite calm, right?
Right.
But if we were in a room where there was lots of bright colours and flashing lights and the lights were very bright, and those fluorescent lights that are often in a lot of schools and centres, they have a bit of a buzz that happens, and unless you're hypersensitive, you don't hear it. It's like a mosquito in your ear just going bzzz all the time. So imagine that all day. So if we can turn off those lights and use the natural lighting, that's much better. If we can think about the acoustics, making sure that things aren't too echoey or too noisy, and we do that by putting soft materials into the room, so couches or floor mats or cushions or things that just soften the environment. The thing is, we want to make the environment look more home-like, so that children feel relaxed and calm because it's familiar to them. And that's part of my 3 pillars that I have created with the design of the environment in mind. There's 3 pillars, and they relate to the S, the E, and the T parts of the brain. So that's where brain set comes in: survival, emotions, and thinking. And we harmonise all of those levels of the brain using the 3 pillars of design that I've created. So if we think about the brain for a moment, we think about that's just a blob of flesh basically inside our skull. If there was no sensory input, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So we live and learn through sensory input. What we smell, see, hear, the 5 senses. There's actually 8 senses, but let's just work with the 5 for now. All of that input goes into our brain, and that's how we make sense of the world. If we have this brain confusion that I mentioned before, how can we do that easily? It's a struggle for children, and children get tired, they get irritable, they get cranky, and then they can't function in the best way that they can, and neither can we, because now we're dealing with all of these children.
Right.
So the sensory input that we provide for children is really vital, because we all learn through our senses. Think about it. We all learn through our senses. We've been shopping with the group that's on tour with ECDF, and we went shopping yesterday, and I noticed that all of us were touching the fabrics as we went through the store, because we are sensory beings. First of all, the colour excites us, and then we want to touch it, and it's a very sensory experience going shopping, and we don't often think about that. Life is a sensory experience. So we need to make sure that in our classroom environments and at home, we need to give children peaceful sensory environments and peaceful opportunities. So lower the lighting a little, make sure it's not too loud and noisy, and think about the colours and what you're actually putting into the environment, and having small little spaces that children can get away to. They may be sensory seekers, or they may be sensory avoiders. So we have to balance the room as well.
Great. That sounds interesting. And moving on to the next bit. Right. So when we're talking about these spaces, we need to actually design them align them to our needs, right?
Right.
So, how would you suggest educators and parents create these brain-friendly spaces at home and in the classroom to optimize children's learning abilities?
Well, there's 16 elements of design, and I know we don't have time to go through the 16 elements that we need to overlap in any environment, whether it's the classroom or whether it's at home. But a couple that you could do quite easily is have smaller spaces in the classroom, have multiple small spaces for children that just cater for 1, 2, 3, 4, at the maximum 6 children in a small space, because that's less threatening for children. Children will communicate more, they'll be more relaxed, so this oral language will happen. It's much easier to talk just you and I than to a room full of people. So it's less threatening. Children can explore at their own rate. They don't have to have anyone looking at their work. The teacher has these nice little groups that she can go around or he can go around to and just build those beautiful relationships by asking wonderful questions about, oh, tell me a little more about what you're doing here, and oh, I wonder what would happen if this happened. So we can build those deep relationships. So that's important for us to think about in the classroom environment. Also the tone of our voice, how we speak to the children, not calling across the classroom to children, get up and go over to the child and be respectful and talk to the child. In my travels across the world where I train teachers in brainset, that's a common thing that I hear people saying, that they see people sitting in the chair and calling across the room to a child, which, you know,
that's very common.
Yeah, and I wouldn't like
India.
that if that happened to me. You know, I would rather someone got up and had the respect for me to come over and speak quietly to me.
Absolutely.
So that's a respectful thing, and we need to make sure that we're maintaining that as we would to another adult. At home, we can do much the same thing, making sure that our environment is organised and not over-cluttered and not over-coloured. And I know culturally, the colour is a feature in a lot of homes and a lot of classrooms, and that happens culturally. And I understand that, and often it's about people in liking those colours and enjoying the colours. Look how brightly we're dressed today. But for the brain, in a classroom environment, we need to have those calmer, neutral colours so that the brain isn't confused.
That's exactly what we saw in Bali Montessori yesterday.
That's right.
Very calm colours that you're using inside the classroom, and it is like, it's very calming for adults.
Absolutely.
Just imagine what it would do to children.
And having those aspects of nature, so having plants or having rocks and different things from nature in your home too, as artifacts and as interesting things in your home or in the classroom. Recently I was in Canada and America, and I was privileged to see a lot of those classrooms with the lovely calm colours and timber floors, and we're not all blessed to have a classroom like that. But if you can replicate that as best you can, that makes a huge difference to the impact on the brain and the calming of the brain. So something to keep in mind.
Definitely, that I think goes out to all educators, all school leaders and school owners, how we can best design our spaces for optimal learning. So
I'm curious to find out a little bit more about your peace pedagogy that I know that you've spoken about in your previous podcasts, and that you're delivering in a lot of your centres in India. And I'm just wondering whether there's specific routines that people can do, that teachers can do during their daily practice, that help to maintain a calm and secure atmosphere for the children, Dr. Vasavvi.
Thank you for the question. This is very interesting because children are very little and they're full of energy. So these practices that I talk about in my pedagogy is basically now in the initial stages, say 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5. They come in capsules, like smaller time area, smaller timing gaps, where they are practicing labeling of emotions or understanding what kind of emotions they're feeling, the emotional thermometer, and there are many other activities like a peace corner, a peace room when they're not feeling too happy, or if they are overwhelmed, where we have a lot of soft toys where they can talk to, because children associate a lot with these soft toys and these little things that they can really work with and take out that energy, the negative energy, I would say, or maybe even positive energy, which is too much when it's overwhelming, right? So because we see a lot of children with symptoms of ADHD, they're very hyperactive. So even that is something that needs to cool down, because when you are hyperactive, you do a lot of things at one go, and maybe nothing is done with a complete understanding of what one is doing. So we need to calm them down, and these are in small capsules. We have different activities; those are planned around it. Storytelling being one, and I feel that storytelling is a very strong tool of communication, and we are working our story around the peace lines, right? So when we talk about these peace stories and we make them feel and visualize, you know, and we have seen that they feel more calm, they feel happy, and also we have these breathing exercises where they breathe in and out. It's not any complex yoga, but very simple activities where children can, stop their racing hearts to a normal way of beating heartbeats. And I've seen a lot of change because we've been implementing these in our tender petal centers, and now I have trained some schools in Malda, in Bari, in different places where they are implementing this, and we are getting a very good outcome, a very good feedback of all of it.
Well, that sounds wonderful. And are there some specific examples that you could give to teachers, some different activities or different games that they could implement to help for them to practice mindfulness and peace?
Surely. There are a lot of activities we talk about. My grandmom used to talk about chewing food 32 times.
Right.
It was not to just help in digestion, but it was also to feel the taste, be in the present. Mindfulness is being in the present, to savor the moment which we are living in. And we now see that people are far removed because of the digital spaces we are in. So we are not in the present. We have a screen in front of us. Children have a screen in front of them, and they do not know what is going around in the environment, yet they are living in a virtual world, right? So in order to bring them down to the focus, yesterday I remember walking through the grass, Marion and me. And that is something, again, a small example.
With your shoes off.
Yeah, with the shoes off.
Yeah.
And the moment you're feeling the grass, the dewdrops, it actually stimulates your mind, and it gives you peace, and it even improves your eyesight. We can do nature walks. We can do activities where children feel with their eyes closed, and it's a huge way to develop sensorial learning. And they try to name that object in front of them, which they are not even seeing. So this enhances the ability of a child to be mindful and to be drawn out of something which is unnatural. See, we cannot do away with technology. We cannot do away with what's happening now, but definitely we can draw them off for some time and develop all of these in capsules. And later these capsules can become a part of their lives. Even when I learned yoga, I didn't do it in a day. It was about a year that I had done practices of small steps, and that led me making yoga a lifestyle in my entire journey of life.
Yes, and it takes time, doesn't it? And children don't develop overnight or even in a week. It takes time. So implementing these small little steps, as you're talking about, would take time, but meaningful time.
Right. And, I think we are coming to the end of our podcast. And my question to you is, how do you think an adult around the child can role model in a way that these basic qualities get into a child, it gets inculcated? Because we know that children learn by examples, not from what we speak much, more from what they see. So what is your thought on it?
Well, as I mentioned before, teachers, all adults are role models for the children, but it doesn't have to be so much what you say. It can be the body language that you use as well. So it can be the eye contact. It can be, for teachers, getting down to the child's level and looking directly at them. It can be just smiling. There's research around just the stimulation of the brain just when people smile at each other. And it's amazing. The brain lights up when that happens. So building those relationships, I think, is the most important in life. I think building relationships is important, and respecting each other, whether it be an adult in your classroom or whether it be the child. If you're a parent, it's the same thing, having some respect and honouring that child and honouring them for being the individual that they are, because we're all unique, and if we can see that uniqueness in each other, I think that adds a lot to developing a calm space, and it adds to the peace that people are going to feel. Would you agree, Dr. Vasavvi?
Absolutely. And to add on to it, yeah, the mindset of the facilitator matters a lot.
Yes.
And when we are training, we have seen that we have to work a lot on mindset, because still in India, I would talk about the Indian scenario, education is more about the academic, it's more about knowledge acquisition and not about the personality development, though it's changing. Now the NEP 2020 talks about these different areas, the different fields where the child need to explore, be it dance, dramatic, through
the arts.
The arts, the visual arts. And those, I would also say, are ways of releasing your excess energy, your negative energy. So art is a form of real, getting rid of certain unwanted energies, I would say. That you just draw and you just take it out, or you just play outside and you kind of calm yourself down. So everybody has their own coping mechanism, and these coping mechanisms cannot be taught on the dot. It's just that we can teach them certain things, and how they acquire it and use it to their benefit with their own mindset, with their own way of thinking is what it is all about. When I train teachers, I always tell them that, see, I'm not training you. You're going to take back, somebody's going to take back 30%, somebody's going to take back 70%, somebody 100%.
Right.
So it's on the person who's sitting right in front of us. But in the early childhood years, since those are the primary years and when the brain architecture is developing, so if we have the right tone of things done in the right manner, with the right environment, with everything right for them, along with the teacher and the parent mindset, which is positive, I think a lot can be done. And in the next 20 years, you'll see a better world, a more peaceful world, where, maybe, I don't know whether Dr. Kathy and me would be around, but we would be the happy stars in that case. But I'm very positive we'd be there to actually see and feel happy that we've touched the lives of some children and have made some difference.
Yeah, I think so. And I think if we remember, well, the mantra that I use across the world is a calm brain, is a thinking brain. And if we can implement some of those strategies that you've just mentioned, Dr. Vasavvi, and we think about the environment that we are creating for these children and for ourselves, I think we're on a positive road for the future.
Right. Both of us are working in different parts of the world. She has recently delivered her trainings in the US, and she's recently moved back to Australia, where she's planning to do a lot of work. I work mostly in India and Southeast Asia, and I think, we are able to touch lives of little ones in very small way, but this is going to go a long way. And I would always call upon educators and teachers who want to know more about designing these spaces or about the peaceful human peace pedagogy. So you are most welcome to get in touch with me through my podcast. I'll be giving all the links, and if you want to get in touch with Dr. Kathy, you can very well get in touch with her as well. And thank you so much for being a part of the Mockingbird Show. And it's a blessing that we met in Bali. This is for the second time. And Kathy and I got to know each other when it was like 2020.
5 years ago.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah.
When the pandemic set in, and we were all in our houses. But then I would always say, cheer the digital technology, the development that has happened, which connected people all over the globe. And we have our ECDF members all across, and everybody is doing incredible work in their own spaces. So I really love what all these educators are doing, and we keep meeting each other in these outreach programs. And this is more like visiting schools, learning more. And today we will be visiting the Kipina Kid, where we are going to have our conference and the awards, and also see the school, their practices, their methodology. And tomorrow is our main attraction, which is a Bali Green School, where sustainability learning is a big part of the education system. And we in this world today, when we are talking about peace with nature, sustainability,
Right.
thinking about the other person while we are developing our infrastructure, developing our countries, taking huge decisions. All of this is inclusive of the work we do. It all comes under the gamut of peace education.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
It
you so
does.
much, Dr. Kathy, for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
So I'm really happy to make Kathy wear our Assamese Mekla chadar. She's in yellow, so am I. Mustard and lemon.
Lovely.
Right?
Yep, lovely.
And this is the first time she's wearing the Mekla chadar, and I'm very proud of my attire. This is our local attire of the Assamese people from the northeastern part of India. And when I planned this conference, I had this thing in mind that I'll carry one for Dr. Kathy to wear, and she would get to know how it feels to wear another culture's dress.
Well, I've actually learned quite a lot about the Indian culture because of our friendship and going to Delhi a couple of years ago, and now having the privilege of wearing traditional clothing is just a delight for me and a lovely honour. So thank you, Dr. Vasavvi.
Thank you, and we look forward to more podcasts of such kind. And this has been an incredible experience. I so love it, and now we are ready to go to Kipina's Bali for our conference. And today is going to be a big day for us.
It sure is. It is going to be a wonderful day.
Keep blessing, follow the podcast, and be a part of the Mockingbird Show. Until next week, bye.
Bye.